Hello everyone, and now we're doing the second part of Duchess of Hell, so enjoy. 2. Talking Eyeballs. Oleander had little memory of the ride in the ambulance, only that her rambling about the cake having eyes had led to a conclusion of concussion or perhaps something else with her brain. That did not surprise Ollie. She was quite sure it was all caused by stress. She'd been told to limit her stress for blood pressure reasons, and they'd scoured and threatened to shove her onto statins, and that's why she lived in the garage now. You saw cartoon eyes on the cakes, and they told you that you were demon spawn. Despite everything, Ollie had still been disappointed by the fact her mother had answered the call, heard she was in an accident, and told the hospital they were in a different part of the country. It was nothing new, but every so often Oleander liked to think her parents would care about her again at least once. She really wished sometimes that they would care about her, but that was just how it was since her sister had turned up. Still, turning to see that it was Dave sitting there looking confused at her explanation, other waves of guilt gripped her. Yeah, it's weird. It just sort of appeared on the cake and then disappeared, and I checked. And then the second time tried to make me into a sci-fi heroine. Oleander groaned, lifting a hand to her head and realizing that she had a massive bump on the back of her head, and there was some kind of bump on her forehead too. They had said the CCTV had caught her slumping against the shelf and then landing back heavily, which was embarrassing as there was no way Oleander liked to believe she had fainted in such a dramatic and ridiculous way. It must have looked like she'd suddenly had a heart attack, but her blood pressure was under control, and the staff had made it clear they were just seeing stress and the injuries from the collapse. You should head home, though, Dave. Eva has, lit- Eva has her little school play next weekend. She could use her daddy's support. Eva was worried and said she would draw you a card immediately. Besides, Rachel told me to get here immediately because she knew what your lot were like. I called her to update her when I went to the bathroom, and she said she'll prepare a guest room so you can stay with us to heal. You won't be safe in a cold garage with a concussion, Dave stated, and sometimes Oleander wondered how she'd never managed to fall in love with him when he'd been looking for it. Yes, part of her was jealous for the fact that she had not picked up on his interest in her before he'd met Rachel, but she was so lovely, and the pair of them were like, well, was that what siblings were like, perhaps? It felt more like family than friendship, and Ava was delightful. That's kind. I think at least one night, just in case I faint again, Oleander stated, although she still felt exceptionally guilty over it. She then gave a grimace at the thought of Kosh sitting on his own in his arboreal enclosure, looking forlornly towards her desk and sulking he was not going to get a juicy wrap any sooner than was scheduled. She gave a soft snort as she thought about it, and maybe Dave recognised it, as he also gave a soft chuckle. I'm sure Kosh can cope, although I will go and check on him for you in a minute when I pick up some stuff for you. I'll tell your family they want you in overnight for tests, and then no one's going to fuss or sulk, Dave stated calmly, and Oleander thanked him, before feeling a weird clenching in her gut. She watched him get up and go, informing the nurse he would return with the items for her, and the nurse agreed she'd get the doctors to check and talk about discharge. Oleander was calm and accepting of whatever the doctors were going to say, but she was still a little surprised over it all, but thankful. Maybe her age had been getting at her, but she was also a little worried about this situation and the potential trouble at work that Ian had been hinting at. Things got suddenly a little busy for the next hour. There was a cancellation at the MRI, and Ollie was wheeled out there to change, climb on, and then experience what it was like to be in a bright coffin for a little while. She'd never expected to pinch her eyes shut and have the horrible fear of how hot she was getting, how tight she felt, even though she was only a little chubby, and then the fact they were telling her to breathe normally. She'd then had a few blood tests and was sent back to the room and asked to prep to leave. Nothing obvious had turned up, and she was being told the usual precautions and rules about concussion, but told a specialist would call in the morning regarding the potential brain injury. That scared Oleander. She did not know what they had been doing, but there was always the possibility that the specialist had not been available, and well, she had been told to carry on as usual, but any sudden fevers, dizziness, inability to speak, fainting or fit, she had to go straight back. It felt like it was something that she should take seriously, and thus shouldn't they? But she had packed her things and was actually made to have some toast and a glass of water and a cup of tea before she was allowed to go, worried about her low sugar levels worried maybe her low sugar levels could probably be the cause of it. Oleander tried not to notice it, but she was soon sitting in the waiting area after sending Dave a text, and when she felt the need to check herself in the toilet, a lot of people were looking at her weirdly. With a heavy sigh, Oleander marched into the small bathroom in the hall and locked the door firmly. She didn't have any makeup on hand, so she doubted the situation would need too much more than her moisturizer. But upon staring into the mirror, she gave a squeak and leapt backwards. Someone had turned the side of her face purple. She groaned. She'd been wondering why she'd been feeling tingling sensations, put that had put that on just the throbbing where she'd hit things. She hadn't realised that she now looked like someone had thrown a brick at her. With a heavy groan, she put the toilet seat down and sat on it, feeling suddenly very self-aware and afraid of the ridicule and the eyes that would watch her outside and make assumptions over her based on one bruise. She was so glad she was not going home either. They'd probably think it was attention-seeking as they had done the night she'd managed to escape something far worse. They are really clueless, you know. I gave them exactly what they wanted, a perfect and adorable daughter who never asked for much, but always loved fantasy. And what happens? They get their miracle baby and then blank every summons I've sent. I also think they've been stealing them. I also think they've been stealing the money I send you every year, let alone the card. Do you know what it's like to post something from hell? You think the customs is mad here, but Nurgle's damn hounds go through everything, and they wouldn't let me get you the pet purple dragon you wanted when you were 6. Oleander froze, a terrible cold drip beginning down her spine as she slowly turned her head to look towards the bright white wall to her left. She did not want to believe it. She did not want to think that there was some reason for her to be seeing the cartoon eyes again, or indeed for her to do so and acknowledge there could be much more going on in her brain that she really did not want to have to deal with. Oleander turned cautiously towards the wall and noticed the big cartoon eyes. Oleander turned cautiously towards the wall and noticed the big cartoon eyes. They were purple, and though initially they looked like evil eyes, they were suddenly big and bright with the water drops like animated eyes. Oleander was scared. How did it know about the purple dragon? Because I'm your father. I'm Celios, great Duke of Hell, commander of 30 legions, chivalric expert teaching the words to make someone fall in love with you, although the consequences are, of course, going to be your own choices. Oh, normally I'd appear as a gallant knight upon my crocodilian steed, but Agrippa's been a little snappy lately. Get it? And I think you have reacted worse to seeing a knight on a crocodile. And I think you'd have reacted worse to seeing a knight on a crocodile plodding around a supermarket chain with you. I thought the eyes were easy to pass off as they used to be when I was your imaginary friend Dumpy. Oh my god, you were Dumpy the White Tree Frog? How? I never told anyone about that. My dad made me see a psychiatrist, so I had to stop thinking, wait, oh no, maybe I've had some psychosis going on for years and this is how it's playing out. What's going on with me? Ollie whispered to herself, grasping her head, and then stood up. She padded to the sink and began to wash her face. The cold water actually stung against her face, and then her eyes sat happily on the faucet, which made her. And then, and then the eyes sat happily on the faucet, which made her jump backwards with a hiss. Well, you're not crazy. There are strict rules that demons cannot harm children, and I'm actually a pacifist, so knowing you wanted something so much, I could make it your imaginary friend, then I could hang out and not cause any grief, and well, you were very happy of my company. There was an edge of sorrow in his voice, but Ollie noticed the hesitation at the start, and she guessed there was more to this. Oh wait, could it be a tumour? She recorded a television series where a character started seeing cartoons because of a brain tumour. Could that be what was happening? She glowered at the eyes. Look, I don't care what you claim to be right now. Clearly you're from my head and seem to know what's going on with my body, so tell me, what's going on with my brain? Oleander growled. And the figure gave a few soft grimaces. Well, the reason we can chat is because it's time to fulfill the end of the bargain. When your parents summoned me, desperate for a child, and I had to ask Astaroth specifically to allow me to do it, who then had to go through Beelzebub, who then argued with Belial, who then brought it up to Lucifer. It was got a lot of admin levels and big deals like that. When it came back, they had 2 drafts arranged, one in which your parents would pay the price, and the other in which you would pay the price. And they chose for me to pay, right? Somehow that did not surprise Ollie, even if it was imaginary, and the eyes did some kind of gesture similar to a nod. Verily. So the deal was that you would either die on your 40th birthday or you would become a denizen of hell. Either way, until your decision is made, the process has begun by a very nasty bit of blood in the brain that will either be healed by surgeons the day of your 40th or kill you. It's not what I wanted, but humans make these choices, not the demons. You still gave it to them as an option. Okay, I need to be in a bed and rest before we talk again, and then you can explain it better, all right? She did not want to believe it, but what if her body was rejecting a cartoon demon to tell her she was in a serious situation? She couldn't tell, but the eyes disappeared, and calmly she stepped outside. Numb as she stepped into the waiting area, hoping something interesting would happen soon.